Hi, and welcome back to Pick Up the Pieces. I'm Stacy, and we're in the Pickup Kitchen. Tonight we are going to make some homemade pizza dough, and we're going to make pizzas in our Gozney Roccbox pizza oven. This was a Christmas gift that I got my husband last year, and we really enjoy making pizza at home. The recipe of dough that I am making comes from the Gozney book that comes with your pizza oven, and it makes a lot of dough. It makes enough for like 8 sort of individual sized pizzas. So what we're going to do tonight is make 4 individual pizzas, and then the rest we're going to turn into garlic knots. So it's 750 mLs of warm water, and then it's 14 grams of yeast, and then some sugar, a tablespoon of sugar. And I am going to just give this a little bit of a mix. And this is a Bosch mixer. I love this mixer for large recipes. When you're making a lot of dough, this mixer can handle, I believe, up to about 13 cups of flour without a problem. So I'm just gonna let this yeast, water, and sugar sit here for a few minutes until it gets foamy, and then when that happens, I am going to add my flour in. So my yeast has had a chance to sit here and sort of activate with the sugar and the warm water. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And now the recipe says to add my flour and salt. So it is 2 pounds, 3 ounces of bread flour and a level tablespoon of sea salt. I'm going to show you how it mixes together, and then this will knead in the mixer for about 6 or 7 minutes. I find when I add flour to this mixer with it running, it just makes a mess everywhere. So I'm going to add, I don't know, probably about half the flour, and then give it a mix, and then add the rest. And this mixer is very powerful. It mixes up a ton of ingredients in very little time. My tablespoon of, it said fine sea salt, and I have very fine pink salt, so that is what I'm using. So I don't know if you can hear that, but just a couple of times around and this dough is largely mixed together already. I'm just going to kind of scrape down the sides a little bit and scrape some of this dough away from the center so that it has a chance to mix evenly. And then once this dough kneads for 6 or 7 minutes, then it is going to rest on the counter for about an hour, I believe. Yeah, so about an hour is how long it will sit on the counter to rise, and then we will make pizza. So now I'm going to knead it for 6 to 7 minutes. So our dough has kneaded in the machine for about 7 minutes. And now I'm just going to take this dough out and get it in a bowl. So the dough is pretty sticky, and that is okay. If we need to work in a little bit more flour later when we are making it into pizza or garlic knots, that is fine, we'll do that. I do not tend to mess with the recipe at this point because it needs to sit and rise, and the bread glutens need to develop. So I don't want to risk adding extra flour right now thinking that it needs it, and then later find that I've messed it up by adding too much. So the one thing I will say about this mixer is, although I love the Bosch mixer, this is very heavy. And when it is full of dough or, ingredients, it is even heavier. And so that is my one critique, I guess I would say, about this Bosch mixer. Although it is excellent and I love using it, and it lets me do a ton very quickly, and it is a powerhouse, it is also sometimes difficult to handle. But you cannot beat it as far as how much work it can do. The KitchenAid mixer cannot handle the same amount of work as this mixer can. So I've managed to scrape all of our dough out of the Bosch mixer. Like I said, it is a wonderful mixer. It is a powerhouse, and it will mix up a ton of dough for you, but that bowl is a bit heavy, and so sometimes it is a little bit of a challenge to lift it up and scrape dough out. But certainly not complaining, and I'm glad to have it in my kitchen as one of the tools that I use. So this is our dough. It's now going to sit in this bowl. I'm going to loosely cover it, and it is going to rise for 1 hour, and then when we are ready to shape it into garlic knots and pizza, I will show you what we do. So this is our Gozney Roccbox pizza oven. It connects to a propane tank, and as you can see, we are warming it up so that we can make some pizzas. And so I'm just kind of showing you the back of it. We just have it connected to our propane tank. So while this continues to heat up, I'm going to go roll out my dough. All right, so our dough has risen for about an hour. It is definitely double in size. And now I'm just going to get some bench flour here on the counter. I just use all-purpose flour when I am rolling out the dough. It was bread flour to make the dough, but bench flour is fine, like just all-purpose is fine when you're making your pizzas. And so I just kind of knocked the dough back a little bit, and now we're going to separate it into balls. So I believe it's 200 grams of dough makes one pizza. 200 grams of dough is what you need for one pizza. So what I'm going to do here is just get a little bench flour underneath my dough. And a little sort of on the top, just so it's easy to handle. And then I have a scale here. And this scale, you can weigh it in grams, you can weigh it in ounces, it doesn't matter. It's got settings for both. So I am going to see how much dough this is. Oh, 300. Okay, so I'm off by about 100, so I'll just cut a little off. So that is 200 grams of dough. So that is one of our pizza dough balls. And I'm going to weigh out 3 more of those because we're going to have a total of 4 pizzas here. So that's another 200. That's another 200. I'm just going to get those to the side. And then I need 1 more, that's 200. I am pretty good at estimating tonight because my dough balls have all been pretty much the size they need to be. So that one's giving me a little stick. So I'm going to put a little flour in that one. Now the rest of this dough we're going to use to make garlic knots. I think what I'm going to do is maybe get those garlic knots shaped up. And I think the reason I'm going to roll out and shape out some garlic knots right now is because they may need to rise a little bit again before they cook. So if I've probably got another 4 dough balls here that are about 200 grams each. So I think I'll separate it first into 4. That's another. That one's a little sticky, so just give it a little flour. So we got that, we got that. I think this one, yep, that's about 200. That's a little heavy. Okay, that's about 200. I don't know what this last little scrap is, but we basically got one. So we got 8 dough balls that are an even 200 grams. So it's about 8 pizzas plus another 150 grams here, which is fine because again, we're gonna turn these into knots. So I've never made garlic knots before, but you know what? It's just dough, so I am gonna give it a shot. I am just gonna roll this out and then cut it into strips and knot it and see what happens, I guess. I didn't really look up a recipe for garlic knots. I just thought maybe it would be a fun thing to do. So we'll see if that's a good idea or a horrible idea. I just looked up sort of a generic garlic knot recipe and found that the pieces of dough that I had were just a little too big. So I'm just making a little smaller. And then tying a knot, tucking the ends under. So I will make up a little bit more garlic knot with this ball of dough. But while these ones are rising on a sheet, then I'm gonna get our pizzas going. So this is one of my balls of pizza dough, and all I did was sort of put it on my counter and start working it into a sort of circle shape. I have not actually found a way to get my pizza to stay perfectly round, and that's okay. We don't care what shape it is, but I do know that if you sort of roll it in like an X shape, so go this way, and then go this way, you'll keep it round. Whereas if you continue to sort of go in one direction and only one direction, then you're going to end up like making it into scary weird shapes. So this is kind of the consistency that we like our dough to be. It is going to spring back a little bit, and that's completely fine, but this is pretty much the thinness and the shape that we go for. And I'm just making sure that there aren't really thick spots, there aren't really thin spots, because we want it to cook evenly. And then this is the peel that comes with the Gozney Roccbox. Now, this video is not sponsored by Gozney in any way. This is just something that I bought my husband as a gift last Christmas, and we've been loving using it. And I just figured I would show you how we make homemade pizza in our home. So I'm going to flour this dough very well and flour the peel. If you don't have enough flour on your dough and on your peel, then when you go to put your pizza in the oven, it's gonna stick to your peel and you're gonna have a mess. So I like to build my pizza on the peel, and I like to give it a test and make sure it's jiggling. And then I like to kind of sprinkle a little more flour underneath just to make sure that it is not going to stick to the peel. So first I'll just make a plain cheese pizza. This is what my daughter likes. And so we're gonna just take our homemade spaghetti sauce. You don't wanna use too much in the way of ingredients on your pizzas. If you put like a ton of sauce and a ton of toppings, and then it may not cook evenly. And you want your toppings sliced really thin. Now the pizza oven does get very, very hot, but we found that if you cook it really at a very high temperature, like 500, 600, 700 degrees, the dough will almost start to burn, and then like your toppings aren't even kind of cooked or melted. So we like to kind of cook it for a little longer at a slightly lower temperature. So usually what I do is I make the pizzas and then I run them outside to my husband, and my husband cooks them in the pizza oven. But we're going to show you how we put the pizzas in the oven in a moment. So again, you don't want to go too thick on the toppings. You want to be able to taste your dough. So this is just cheese and sauce and my daughter will be very happy with that. So we're gonna check the oven and make sure it's ready to go, and we're gonna show you how we cook this pizza. So our pizza oven was nice and hot, and here we're just putting our cheese pizza in the oven. Doing a little voiceover on this part because our neighbors were in the yard and were having a grand old time and didn't want you to have to listen to kids screaming while I was trying to talk to you. So our cheese pizza went into the oven, and you can see the flame is at the back of the oven. So the pizza is cooking first at the back, but also the base of the oven is, or the floor of the oven is nice and hot. And so it's cooking the underside of the pizza at the same time. We have learned that if you take the pizza out, turn it a bit, and then slide it back in, it will cook evenly. You're not going to get burn spots. A little bit of a char here or there, we don't mind, but you certainly want it cooked evenly. And so this one we took out a couple of times and turned and put it back in so that we got even cooking. And you can see in a moment that the cheese gets really bubbly and nice. And so when that pizza is done, we then just pull it out, and I will go inside and make the next pizza. So here is another ball of dough, and our first ball is cooked. I'm just going to get this one stretched out. So like I said, I just stretch with my hands first and kind of pull on the dough and rotate. If I feel like it's sticky in any spots, I'll flip it and add a little bit more flour, and I'm just kind of pushing down the dough to help more evenly distribute it. Like you can feel when you're doing this, like if there's like a thick spot or a thin spot, and then you can just kind of move your hands around to flatten it. I think this is the third or fourth time we've used this pizza oven. We're finally feeling like we're getting the hang of it. I feel like the first time we were cooking at too hot of a temperature, and really it's more at about 600 right now, which is higher than we normally do, but it's working nicely. As you can see, my daughter's cheese pizza is done, and it came out pretty good, and it feels really nice. It feels nicely cooked. So we're letting that cool a little bit, and then we'll slice it up and give it to her. But this dough takes a little bit of time to get used to. The pizza oven takes a little time to get used to too, because you kind of need to watch the pizza, you need to rotate it, you need to move it around and get the feel for it. Where's our peel? So this one, this particular pizza now is going to be for my son. Okay, and then he'll get sauce on his. Spread that out almost to the edges. This is our homemade spaghetti sauce. We use this on spaghetti, we use this on pizza. We do have a homemade pizza sauce that we regularly make, but we just realized we're currently out of it. So I guess that video is coming soon. Okay, so that. Get some mozzarella on his pizza. And this is a cup and char pepperoni. Cup and char pepperoni is great. It's cup and crisp. It gets like really crispy around the edges, and the pepperoni will kind of form like a little cup, which is kind of neat. So we'll show you that. Okay. So his pizza is ready to go. So here we're cooking my son's pizza. He had cheese and pepperoni. And so again, just like with the first pizza, we're going to slide it off of the peel into the pizza oven. And it's going to cook at the back side first. And then we'll kind of remove it, adjust the angle of the pizza, and then slide it back in to continue to cook it evenly. The pizza oven remained at about 600 degrees tonight, and that worked out just fine. So you can see the cheese is starting to bubble. The cup and crisp pepperoni is crisping up. And we gave it another turn here, put it back in to continue the cooking. And then this is the finished pizza. So second pizza done, now we're on to the third. And you can see like this pizza oven is really fun. It's very interactive. So if you had company over or family over and you wanted to do like a big pizza night, you could easily do that. It would be fun to do. And you could try a bunch of different flavors of pizza or varieties of pizza, and it would be awesome and totally worthwhile. So I'm just going to make sure, again, that I have enough flour on my dough, because I do not want my dough to stick to the peel. Now this is the size pizza we have made every time we've used this pizza oven, and I feel like it's the perfect size. Like the instructions kind of say to use 200 grams of dough per pizza, and I think that's probably the best bet to do. Now for me, this is my pizza. I'm gonna make a white pizza. So what I did was I simmered some garlic in olive oil on the stove, and I saved it. The actual garlic has been used up, but I saved the olive oil. So I'm gonna use this as a base for my pizza. I do like red sauce. I do like it on pizza, but I really love white pizza. And so any opportunity I have to do a white pizza, I absolutely will. So this, like I said, is just some olive oil that's simmered with some whole garlic cloves. And now I'm gonna add my cheese. There, and then I've got some thinly sliced white onion here, or yellow onion I guess it is. I'm gonna put some of that on here, and it's very, very thinly sliced. That way it will cook nicely in the pizza oven, because you want it to cook all the way through. You don't want it to end up being raw. And then I've got some sliced tomatoes. These are just some little plum tomatoes that came out of our garden. So I'm gonna use these on my pizza. This is what we call a white pizza where we live, which is just, it's got no red sauce and veggies. And then I am gonna put a couple of mushrooms on my pizza. Some really thinly sliced mushrooms. I think that'll taste good. White pizza typically doesn't usually have mushrooms on it, but I mean, when you're making your own pizza, you can do what you want. So that is what I am doing. Okay, so I'm just gonna check, make sure it is moving. Looks like it is. So we are gonna get this out to the pizza oven and get it cooking. So here we are cooking my white pizza, and just like the other two pizzas, we just slide it into the oven, which will cook it from the bottom and the sides at the same time. And then take it out and rotate, put it back in so that it cooks evenly and nothing burns. You want to make sure you do not put too many toppings on your pizzas, and you want to make sure that your toppings are thin enough so that they cook evenly. Usually by this time of the night, we're getting the hang of it. Each pizza cooks in about 3 to 5 minutes. The more toppings you have on your pizza, the longer it will take to cook. But all of these pizzas came out great that night, and we really enjoyed it. This is the last one. And then, like I said, I'm going to try my hand at some garlic knots. So I get it mostly, I like to get it mostly shaped by hand, and then just do the last little part with the rolling pin. I think when I first started making pizzas with this pizza oven, I was using the rolling pin for all of it, and then was just finding that the dough was like a super weird shape and was really uneven. So I feel like doing this is better, and also try to leave the edge a little bit thicker than the center, because then it looks and feels, tastes more like a pizza. Put this here on the pizza peel. And then this one, I will show you the finished product when it comes in, because I would like to start eating my pizza while it is still warm. But it only takes a couple of minutes really to get a whole bunch of pizzas made. Getting the cheese on the last pizza. And we're gonna go with some onions. You can also chop up some green peppers. You could add some olives, whatever you like on your pizza. We're gonna do some mushrooms on this one. Like I said, you don't want to put too many toppings on, but it is nice to have sort of a mixture of toppings. Then you add your cup and char pepperonis. And I'm not putting toppings on top of each other. I'm trying to leave them their own space. That way the pizza oven will cook everything evenly. And then this one is gonna also get some of our homemade pepper rings. Just gonna do a couple of these. There. So this one is good to go. It is sliding on the peel perfectly. So we're gonna get that outside. And I just added a little bit of fresh basil to it. And then this is my husband's finished pizza with his mushrooms, onions, pepper rings, pepperoni. And then we've got a bunch of garlic knots going over here. We're gonna cook some of them in the pizza oven, and then we're gonna cook the rest of them in the oven in here. And we're having pasta one day this week, so we will eat these up later in the week, and we'll show you what they look like when they're done. We are done for the night. These are our garlic knots. Now, I have to say, they don't look very impressive, but the ones that got a little bit of brown on the bottom of them are fully cooked all the way through. What I think I'm gonna do tomorrow, because we're having pasta for dinner tomorrow, is I'm gonna warm these up, and then I'm gonna spread a little garlic butter on the top, and we're gonna try them and see what we think. We're all very full tonight from our pizza, but we did try one of the garlic knots and it tasted really good. It tasted like homemade bread and it was delicious. But I think they're a work in progress. I think the pizzas were 10 out of 10, but these garlic knots, well, maybe a 7 out of 10. So anyway, I'd like to thank you for watching. I'd like to tell you how much I appreciate that you are watching my videos and joining me in my kitchen and letting me show you how to do some great things. I really appreciate that you're here. If you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Good night.